Back on In Focus tonight, government has long been urging the private sector to participate in concessions and third-party agreements in the passenger and rail network to boost its fortunes. This is in a country where record high unemployment is being recorded, particularly amongst the youth. By itself, the state can only dedicate 30% of the investment needed to resuscitate the sector from a certain oblivion. Now, some believe that South Africa's railway infrastructure can be developed to become a catalyst for both jobs and entrepreneurial opportunities. Joining us to discuss this further is Traxtion Business Development Manager Kgama. Maurice, good evening and thank you very much for your time and joining us tonight here on In Focus. Are these jobs that are ready to be occupied, or is there a degree of some spade work that would need to still be done in the rail sector that would create these varied opportunities?
Thank you. And firstly, good evening to your viewers. In terms of the jobs in the railway space, I think once the third-party access becomes a reality in the country, you will have exponential growth in the economy, in that more mines will open up, companies will start to invest because they will see sustainable ways of getting their products from where they're manufactured or where their factories are to ports. And that has a spin-off effect in creating jobs, not only in the railway industry, but also in the broader economy.
And why that third-party access to infrastructure essential?
It's essential because if you look at in the developed world, you have vast rail networks being utilized by not only one company, but multiple companies, making maximizing what is already available. And if you think about South Africa, we've got over or almost 80% of the rail infrastructure on the continent, being that we are quite fortunate in South Africa to have this network, which we should really be maximizing to its full potential.
Yeah. Now, if you were to put a spotlight in where the process is currently, is government paying lip service to this, or are they prioritizing this particular process, this reform, so to speak?
They're definitely prioritizing it, and we welcome the white paper on rail policy, which was launched and gazetted by the government through the Department of Transport. And definitely it's moving in the right direction. And as Traxtion, we welcome this, and we are ready to take advantage of this opportunity.
Right. And what skills then would we need to focus on in anticipation of the wave of employment that will come here, particularly when we're talking young people?
Well, as Traxtion, we have our own training school or training center that is based in our Roslyn Rail Hub. So we anticipate growth in the sector and therefore are preparing for this by upskilling our current staff, both internally and those outside on the continent. But also we have apprentices that go through a rigorous program for technical skills. We are also a skills development partner accredited by both the Transport Education and Training Authority and the Quality Council of Trades and Occupations, the QCTO. So that involves trades like boiler making, that involves trades like spray painting, electricians, diesel electric fitters, and also, of course, the people who operate the trains themselves and the locomotives, the drivers and the shunters, driver assistants and the likes.
Yeah. There are those who are skeptical, maybe apprehensive, maybe even critical of this third-party access, saying this is privatization. How do you respond to that?
I would say we need to look at what privatization is. What this is essentially is the state-owned company allowing private companies to come on and boost the capacity of the rail industry in order for there to be more rolling stock, which is locomotives and wagons, available for customers essentially. So we have this operation in that's running in the from Dar es Salaam to Zambia, where we are essentially running on lines that are owned by the two countries, and it is not privatized. It is us being allowed to operate on that piece of infrastructure and paying a certain fee, like a toll, if you may, and that essentially translates into more money in the state-owned companies' pockets, as rail operators will pay a fee, and there will be more operators in the system. So it is not privatization, however, it is opening up the market to more players.
Yeah. Am I correct to say that Traxtion is already operating successfully in some kind of third-party access provision at the moment? Maybe not in South Africa, but on the continent.
That is correct. We are currently operating on the almost 2,000-kilometer corridor that is from Dar es Salaam in Tanzania up to Ndola in Zambia. And that is essentially one of the operations that we have. Locally, we operate on smaller sites, which are maybe a closed networks owned by mines. But surely the mainline operation that we do have is that one.
Yeah. And for this particular transaction in South Africa, what kind of allocation have you made in terms of investment?
Our shareholders have made commitments to invest up to 1.5 billion in the initial stages for rolling stock. That's your locomotives, your wagons, and of course there'll need to be other services where you will maintain these assets. You might even need to bring in simulators in order to train drivers, and that of course will take also phase 2 of the investment. So we are ready to invest once the proper legislation is in place, once the business cases have been put in place, and we're ready to press the button.
Yeah, as you're saying, ready to press the button. What ways or what interventions do you think could be able to accelerate progress? Because, you know, it's a ticking time bomb. This powder cake just ready to explode in your face with so many young people out of work.
You know, there's much that can be done even through the SETAs, even through private companies, your technical companies. But, you know, the skills mismatch is quite an issue in our country, where we need more technicians. That's essentially where the skills gap, one of the major skills gaps are, and that's your diesel electric technicians, your boiler makers, people who are essentially working with trades. As a company that is accredited by the QCTO as a skills development provider, we are able to do our bit to plug that hole. And currently we have an intake we have 12 apprentices in our system who are undergoing a 3-year program. And we also opened up the advertisement to recruit 4 more apprentices. And I think that companies should consider reaching out to their relevant SETAs, reaching out to their relevant skills development partners in order to try and see how they can upskill the youth in their respective industries.
Yeah, being Youth Month, a day just before Youth Day, young people possibly listening to this conversation are wanting to position themselves for these opportunities. Where do they go? How would you advise they go about it?
The first point is, I think, to have the knowledge. You know, you need to understand whether you are somebody who likes working with their hands. If you're quite a technical person, then, you know, you get a lot of TVET colleges. I think the country has over 50 TVET colleges where various quality trades are offered. And if you feel like you are somebody who can take up courses at some of those colleges, it's certainly a place to start. And then you have your SETAs in the system. And of course, you can also just find out more about which industries have technical skills or need technical skills, whether it be on land, which can be both on the diesel side for locomotives or working with engines, or even aviation. There are quite a lot of fields that technical skills are needed in. So I think the information is the point of departure, gathering that information, speaking to people who you might know who are in the industry. And people are free to visit our Facebook page and like our page, where we often have interesting stories, whether they're technical. Maybe you might see something that interests you. I think you can pick up a lot of information on the net, and we're living in the age of information.
Appreciate your time. Kgama, Manager for Development at Traxtion, and of course making a case to say the catalyst for job creation and job opportunities for youth could possibly lie in the rail sector, and those third-party access arrangement should be certainly expedited and make sure that progress is made in that regard.